Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. Well, I might be back on Zoom for this week's podcast introduction, but last week the editors of CE Pro were happy to gather in person at the CEDIA Expo in Indianapolis and record the podcast. While the show was smaller than anticipated, there was still plenty of technology and education for me, Jason Knott, and Bob Archer to recap from the Indiana Convention Center in this week's episode. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review. Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. This week's edition, we're live from the CEDIA Expo 2021 show floor at the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis. I'm Arlen Schweiger, Executive Editor of CE Pro. I have with me Jason Knott, Editor of CE Pro, and Bob Archer, Senior Editor of CE Pro. Guys, we're here at the show floor in person, not on Zoom for the podcast. Congratulations. Jason, let's start with you. Just impressions, thoughts about being back at CEDIA Expo.
Have you guys gotten taller since I've seen you? It's been such a long time since we actually got together. So there we go. I knew there was something different about you. But, it's been actually really exciting to finally get together face-to-face with people. I've heard that not just with you guys, but everybody, every booth that I've gone to, all the integrators that I'm seeing in the aisles, they just miss that face-to-face conversation that you just can't have, and the anecdotal information and sharing the conversations of what's happening in their businesses. And I think just generally being excited to have a sense of normalcy again is the impression that I'm getting from everybody.
So Jason, if you don't mind, what would you say in terms of the just kind of the attitude that you're seeing on the show floor? Is there kind of a mix between, yes, we want to respect everyone who did not come here and keep in mind all the health and safety protocols, but also it is CEDIA Expo, we want to have a fun time and promote everything that's going on in the industry, because frankly, it's an important time in the industry, and it's a really thriving time in the industry. What have you seen in terms of hearing from the manufacturers on that end, and even some of the integrators?
You hit the nail on the head. I think that people recognize that they need to see the product. It's obviously been very unfortunate that so many of the vendors had to pull out, and absolutely everybody's respecting those decisions. I haven't heard anybody speak negatively, one word of negativity about those vendors who weren't able to come, and the integrators who weren't able to come also, because with so many of the vendors that pulled out of the show, it just made it a much smaller event, and maybe there were particular vendors that they did want to see who weren't here, and so they decided not to come in. Plus, this is kind of the perennial conversation, they're all busy. Everybody is just swamped and busy, and in order to set the time aside to come to the show, they really needed to make it worth their while. Now, the one other thing I'll throw out is I haven't heard anybody say that they're here at this event afraid for their lives. And, there's a lot of social media babbling that goes on about taking your life in your own hands and all those sorts of things. And I think I've seen data that you're actually in a higher threat in the grocery store than you are traveling somewhere. So nobody here is down. Nobody here is afraid. Nobody here is scared.
Right, and I'll add to that the travel to and from. Obviously, you guys came from Massachusetts. I came from North Carolina. It was my first time on a plane since way back going to ISE. Actually, was the last time I was on a plane last February. And even that experience was, that was better than I thought it was going to be. It felt pretty normal. Everyone was just wearing masks. I had no loonies on my flight or anything like that. So, it worked out pretty well. Bob, I know you attended. You flew in early, so you can also attend some of the educational sessions, which you always like to do, especially being our AV guru. Tell us what you saw in there in terms of, what was being taught, what were some of the topics that you saw, and, just some of the insights you heard from any of the guys that you spoke to in those rooms.
Yes, I sat through 3 classes on Tuesday. The first was the first two were Q&As that CEDIA had conducted with a panel of experts. The first one was covering the topic of audio, immersive audio, and room acoustics. And Jerry LeMay from the Home Acoustics Alliance was the presenter on that panel. The next class I went to was a video Q&A that tackled the topic of 8K and HDMI 2.1, and that was with Matt Murray and Jeff Murray from Meridio and AV Pro Edge. And their discussion and their answers were awesome about diving into 2.1 and why the format's so important. I wrapped up my day with part one of a 3-part series of acoustical seminars with Jeff Gardner, a CEDIA instructor and CE Pro All-Star Band member alumni, and he dove into some of Floyd Toole's theories and his latest book on acoustics, and it was fascinating data and material that Dr. Toole had provided the class.
How well attended were those sessions that you were in? I talked to one of the moderators of a panel discussion that was done on the platform, various platforms out there from the wireless standpoint. And they were telling me they had, I don't want to say standing room only, but they had 40 plus people in the session, and it was they were very, very pleased with the attendance. How about those sessions you were in?
The first two classes were probably about half of what they expected, which was surprisingly good given what's going on here in Indianapolis. The final class, the part one with of acoustics with Jeff Gardner, was 22 out of 28 registered class attendees attended the class. So that was excellent, and Jeff was awesome.
You know, I think CEDIA made a point right before the show for everybody that this isn't a time to, cut back on your education that's necessary, and CEDIA did a great job transitioning a lot of their classes to online accessibility. In fact, the integrators can still access, I think, 50 plus of the courses over the next month, as well as the in-person stuff.
They did, and I know I believe they did that for the keynote as well, and all the sessions that similar to last year, where I think it was a very valuable resource that attendees were able to access all those. So if you did miss it, you can get into some of those really important technology sessions. I'll add that the Smart Stage, the sessions that did happen, there were definitely, there were some crowds there. There were some hot topics. And people are out there to learn about lighting, to learn about outdoors opportunities. I saw those, and then I'll say for our own awards programs, it was nice to see we had our best CE Pro Best Products Awards in the morning, the late morning, and then in the late afternoon we had the CE Pro Home of the Year Awards announcements on the Smart Stage as well. With help from Blue Salve Partners. Again, we'll thank them again for helping with the judging on those and helping Jason with the announcing. And it was nice to see crowds for those too. It was a little more than I even anticipated, because I know we weren't sure who was going to show up to accept their awards, but it was nice to see some integrators who had amazing projects. Keep in mind the November issue where you'll see more of those. But to see some of those, standing in front and seeing in front of the images of their projects, and it was really kind of nice to see. So in terms of the exhibitors who are here, let's start with just some booth highlights. Any interesting technologies that you saw, or demos, things. We'll start with some companies that you've seen here in the past, and then we'll hit maybe some of the newer to us companies. Jason, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's too many to name in this without boring everybody to death, but some of the sessions or some of the booths that I was able to stop by, Origin Acoustics is here with a very big presence, and they're showcasing some prototype products across multiple different platforms. So they've got some prototypes on outdoor technology, outdoor audio, both from the Amazonic brand as well as the Origin Acoustics brand. They're showing some prototype sound bars, which are really cool, custom-made Amazonic and then Origin Acoustic, which are semi-custom. And then actually something that I wasn't aware of, I guess I missed the news, that Origin is now co-distributing the Amina invisible wall speaker product with LK Stockroom out of Florida, who was the exclusive distributor of the product. It's from the UK into the US. And so they've combined to kind of co-distribute that product, and they were showing off some new, again, prototype product there that requires minimal amount of mudding. So it actually comes with drywall over it. So the integrator doesn't even have to worry about drywalling over the actual speaker itself. They just have to worry about mudding around the edges. So that was really cool. Also, the Kaleidoscape booth was one of the busier booths here. They're obviously showing really, really cool videos. They just had it on a great concert video that had a crowd around it that everybody was jamming out to. And they were talking, in particular, showing off their new Terra 12 server, but they also were talking about their partnerships that they have established with Sony, Lutron, Trinov, Josh AI, and some others. So those are kind of two of the big ones, and I'll let Bob talk before I go into any of the other ones that I saw if we've got time.
Yeah, just to focus on Kaleidoscape, they have part of their booth is set up with Meyer Sound and Sony displays, and it sounds awesome. It looks awesome. I think Kaleidoscape is really killing it this week with their partnerships and the new products, the Stratos C and the Terra 12 server. I was really impressed with Indie Audio Labs. Aragon has a couple of new components out, and their Acurus brand has a new room EQ system with calibration mics and software that I think are really worth looking at if you want high performance audio. A few other companies here that we'll talk about later, some new brands we'll talk about later, but those brands I was really impressed with.
Sure, and I'll add to that, following up on indie with the indie theme there. Draper is in nearby Spiceland, Indiana. We're actually going to be going to visit their factory because they're nearby, and they were saying as well. I meant to mention this before that they had more people the first day of the show, many more than they anticipated, and so they were really pleased about that. And what they were saying is that I was following up with them today that the dealer discussions that they're having, they said, have been really much more attentive than in previous years, just because you're getting some more time with the dealers, which was nice to hear too. And on the product side, they have great shade products. That is a hot market right now for the industry, just motorized shades. So the Draper at Home line is really pretty fascinating. When I go around the show floor, I always like to see kind of the problem solver type companies, the tools, the testers, things like that. Infrastructure. So for me, I enjoyed visiting with Midlight and seeing what they're doing. They were an early kind of adopter of trying to get Sonos more of a custom brand. So they have their wall mount for Sonos products, but it's pretty neat because it includes hidden power. They're getting power right there, almost kind of like with flat panel TVs. So it makes it much easier on the Sonos install for those speakers. And they can do that for sound bars as well. And then companies like Metro AV, AV ProEdge, just some of those that are really getting everyone up to speed on HDMI 2.1 and what they can do with maximizing system capabilities these days. So, Jason?
So I didn't know that your back was a problem, because I did see you tweeting about you getting the massage chair. So I know he's looking for problem solver technologies, and there we have Arlen in the massage chair. Who was that brand? Infinity?
Infinity massage chairs in the wellness category. Maybe asking for a review product. I don't know. We'll see. But in terms of some newcomers, and wellness being a new kind of obviously a new category that's still emerging. Wellness really ties into to the lighting categories with HCL and all that. So just segueing to it's some newcomers that we saw, or new to us. I wanted to add that the lighting companies are really, they're killing it here too, Bob. And between companies like DMF Lighting with their very, very installer-friendly solutions, and DMF was saying that this channel has been incredible for them as a new revenue stream. So them, and then American Lighting has been around forever. They have Prolux by American Lighting now, as an LED, as a brand for this channel, as a fixture brand. So kind of a newcomer to me for seeing those, but in this hot category was kind of a theme that I saw with that.
I'll just run through a couple of the quote-unquote newcomers that I saw. AutoSlide they're in the Innovation Hub area, and they have a device called the Auto Swing, and it's a door it automatically opens the door using various wave sensor, pressure sensor, and their ideal application is for dog owners, and it's we have to open the door every time the dog has to go to the bathroom. We have to go over in New England. You really don't want to have a doggy door because it's just too darn cold. So we have to go open the door every time for the dog to go in and out. It has a pet sensor, and it actually has safety mechanisms so that the dog can never get crushed, or anybody can ever get crushed. That was really kind of cool. Kind of an old but not really old but new to the show is POE with Victor Pack. So Victor was, of course, the founder of Pack Edge that ended up selling to Control 4 on the networking side and helped establish Control 4 as a leader in the home networks. Well, Victor's back with POE, and POE is really power over Ethernet technologies of all elements, and they're killing it right now with a security lighting power over Ethernet. He said so many integrators put in surveillance cameras, but they don't put lighting in with it. So then they end up having to have some sort of night vision camera, which of course we know goes to black and white. And he was saying that integrators like crazy are now immediately going back and putting in this power over Ethernet lighting because they don't have to call an electrician. They don't have to deal with line voltage electrical. One other company I'll mention is Blonder Tongue. So they are very well known in the commercial space. This is the first time they have ever been at CEDIA, and they picked this year. And of course, what's happening in the commercial market, they realize that so many residential integrators are doing commercial projects. They're a commercial video distribution company, and we're talking like Camp David and the Miami Dolphins arena. I mean, big projects. But they now have downscaled the technology to the point that it's really applicable for integrators doing large estates, doing bars and restaurants, and those sorts of facilities that we see a lot more integrators doing. So those are some of the newcomer highlights that I've got.
I have a pair of newcomers I'm really excited about. One is this Brazilian company called Magna Audio. They're here at CEDIA for the first time. The products are really elegant. They have products for outdoor and indoor use. They put a high degree of passion into their products. They are willing to work with dealers with finishes and other design options to make them really home friendly, to integrate them into a variety of environments. And they also sound really good. I was listening to a pair of Bola speakers, and they sounded really killer. I was really excited about them. I highly suggest people go check this brand out. The other company is a new to the space from the commercial market, Acoustics. Acoustics is I would call them a tier 1 high performance audio company for sound reinforcement. They do sound for a number of top A-list brands. They have come into the resi space here, and they bring a high degree of engineering and design elegance to their product line, and they see their products, like we were talking about with Blonder Tongue, crossing over into light commercial, home theater, distributed audio, as well as houses of worship. And if you want to do line arrays for sound reinforcement, yeah, you could get that stuff too. But Acoustics is based in France, and they bring a high level of engineering to the home audio space.
Just for clarification, use it with Bob's accent, that's not Magna Audio, it's Magna Audio, just so everybody knows.
Right, they're not CEDIA instructors. No, Magna Audio, I remember I did a preview with them, a long-distance Zoom call before last year's virtual edition. I think they're based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Yeah, their products look stunning because they use these actual rock materials like quartz and things like that. It's just amazing. And I'll throw one more newcomer in. That was part of the launch pad area was Hide-A-Trim, which does some really neat things in terms of hiding wall outlets and wall coverings. They actually are working, so they have they do custom jobs that make everything look really nice and flush on the outlets. And they just started doing thermostat coverings, so the thermostats look really flush. And they started with Nest and Ecobee, so they're working with some companies that we know integrators are already working with. So yeah, it's definitely some exciting stuff. We can add that Guard Dog Solutions was the winner of this year's Tech Starter program as a newcomer company. So there's a lot going on. And following up with Jason's, I know he's going to ask for a review for AutoSlide. He might have an in because I believe they're a CEDIA Propel Affinity Program member as well. So we'll see.
We just got a new puppy too, by the way, so that's very needed.
So we'll see about that. But with that, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we all enjoyed our time out of our own home offices and traveling to Indiana. It was great to see. I will add one more thing. When I got in on Tuesday, it was August 31st. It was my birthday, and I was walking down the street, and someone stopped me and actually, I am serious telling this story, wanted a selfie with me because he noticed me from the CE Pro videos that we do. So we know we have an audience out there, and to that integrator, he didn't have his business card on him, but I want to thank him again for making my day. And with that, thank you for CEDIA Expo for this week, and Bob and Jason, signing off from the show floor.